Excellency, Mr. Prabowo Subianto, Your Highness, Sheikh Nasser, Excellency, Mr. Ding Shushang, Excellency, Mr. Paul Mashatile, ladies, gentlemen, friends, I welcome all the participants and guests of the 28th St. Petersburg International Economic Forum. Traditionally, it is a platform for substantive, meaningful discussions on the most relevant subjects of this day, and we are glad that these discussions in the forum platforms are attended by representatives of 140 countries and territories. This year, the themes discussed here, and all of them are important, or rather, as colleagues call them, discussion tracks, include the quality of growth in a multipolar world and great challenges. And these challenges include tectonic shifts in global economics and demographics, including the dynamics of the world's population. They also include social, societal, and geopolitical controversies that manifest themselves through crises and regional conflicts that are flaring up anew with greater force. Unfortunately, this is something we are witnessing currently in the Middle East. Finally, these challenges include climate change and acute environmental issues that require a response, as well as a transition to a new technological structure, which is founded upon digital platforms, AI, and autonomous systems that are capable of making decisions without the participation of human beings. The thing is, how do we make sure that these positive technological changes are spread ubiquitously? How do we make sure that these new digital technological solutions are universally acceptable, allowing countries, regions, and cities achieve a new level of development, climbing the ladder of progress, making sure that this technological breakthrough benefits everyone, including in terms of changing societal structure, decreasing level in inequality, as well as higher standards of living? How do we make sure every person has equal opportunities and gets access to knowledge that will help tap into their potential? And how do we implement the fundamental principle of justice? In the course of my address, I would like to dwell on the tasks at hand for Russia. I'll also speak about what we're doing to address these tasks together with the business community, the academia, and civil society. I'll speak about the approaches we propose in order to support economic growth, not just within our country, but also how we create joint mechanisms for global and regional development in partnership with friendly nations. Let me start with an overview of the current state of the Russian economy. Despite a challenging external environment, the Russian GDP over the last 2 years has been growing by more than 4% every year. In other words, that was higher than average across the world. Speaking about the structure of this growth, let me cite a specific criterion indicator which we have dubbed non-oil and gas GDP. It's calculated so as to factor out the influence of industries related to the extraction of hydrocarbons. So this non-oil and gas GDP in Russia in 2023 grew by 7.2%, whereas in 2024 it grew by almost 5%, namely 4.9%. In other words, we see a higher growth rate than across our GDP on average. In other words, the contribution of the commodity-related component into the economic dynamics of our country is no longer defining. Moreover, at the current point in time, it is showing negative dynamics. And by far, the defense industry is not the only thing sustaining the general growth of GDP, despite what some claim. Yes, indeed, the defense industry has played a role, but we have to look at the structure in detail. Over the last 2 years, we see growth in agriculture, industry in general, construction, logistics, services, finance, as well as IT. In other words, almost all key systemically important industries of the Russian economy have been growing. What does it tell us? It tells us that thanks to the efforts of dozens of thousands of companies and enterprises, their teams, managers, thanks to the initiatives and efforts of millions of entrepreneurs, our economy is not simply growing steadily. Rather, it is also gaining in